Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Oh, come on. You don't have to do that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dr. Peter Glidden here with you for another edition of Fire Your MD. When do I want you to do that? Right now, baby. Fire Your MD now. Check it out. FireYourMDNow.com. 24 plus hours and counting till tomorrow night's webinar. Tomorrow night's webinar, of course, about sex, health. If you do the Google Analytics search, more people are doing a search for sex than they are for God. It's kind of crazy if you ask me, but hey, that's the human condition. And just in the same way that you don't know what you don't know about asthma and about arthritis and about type 2 diabetes, etc., 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 there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't know about the simple human sex drive. And we're going to dial that in tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central Time. You can only have access to tomorrow night's webinar if you are a subscription holder. And if you are a subscription holder, you can cancel at any time. A 1 month is $17. Sign up for $17. Cancel, check it out for 4 weeks. I've got tons of information on the online health recovery subscription service offered at FireYourMDNow.com. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 live internet sessions a week. 2 of them are webinars and 2 are live chat rooms where you just come into the room and ask me a question. We limit the questions to health. We don't talk about religion or politics. I am going to talk a little bit about President Obama's State of the Union address last night in just a minute here. But check it out. I've got archived webinars. I have archived health information. There's just a ton of stuff on the website that you can use right now to educate yourself about the simple methods of health recovery through science-based, clinically verified medical nutrition that we are all about here at Fire Your MD Now. Check it out, FireYourMDNow.com. All right, so last night, the State of the Union address. Now, what I do not do on this radio show is take political sides, because human suffering knows no political party. And if I start talking about Democratic ideology, then I alienate the Republicans. If I start talking about Republican ideology, I alienate the Democrats. And if I talk about any other point of view, I alienate everybody. So we're not going to take sides here politically, but I am going to feel free to comment on topic events that just so happen to be political. Now, last night, of course, State of the Union address, President Obama gets up there, and he's telling everybody his deal. He's telling everybody what he wants to do, and then he says that the most crippling, the biggest burden to the United States economy, the biggest burden to the United States economy. And, I think no matter what party you're involved with, everybody can agree that it's a good idea to have a better economy. It's a good idea to have a healthy economy. It's a good idea to work yourself out of debt. It's a good idea to be fiscally responsible, and I couldn't agree more. And the president says last night on live TV that the biggest burden to our economy is health care. It's health care. It's health care. It's crippling us. It's crippling us. It's a leading cause of bankruptcy. And, health care costs are skyrocketing. And rather than investigate why, everybody just assumes that the MDs are doing the best possible job that they can, and that the reason that our health care costs are through the roof have nothing at all to do with MD incompetence, when it has everything to do with MD incompetence. For goodness sake, if you had a colorblind, if you hired a colorblind person to paint your house, and the paint job was horrible, and then you hired him again to redo it a second time, and then a third time, and then a fourth time, and then everybody in their company, they had 1,000 people working for them, they were all colorblind, and they're all going all around the state that you live in, painting all these houses. They're the most successful painting company in your state. They're all colorblind, and they all deliver horrible results, except, of course, when they're painting a house white or gray. They paint a house white or gray, then they get it right. And, we give them a pass. So every once in a while they get it right, but most of the time they don't get it right, and it's just a horrible job, and we got to bring them back, and we got to bring them back, and we got to bring them back. Well, if that was the situation, what would happen is that the most crippling part of that state's economy would be house painting, right? Because they were horrible at what they did, because they had a built-in prejudice. Now, this is the situation that we are up against. The only people that are talking about this are Dr. Joel Wallach, the founder of the Longevity Company, and myself. We are the only people getting up in front of crowds, laying it on the line and saying, look, the earth is not flat, it's round. The earth is not at the center of the solar system, it's the sun. Women are, in fact, smart enough to vote. Slavery is a bad idea. Childhood labor is an outdated, bad idea, right? These were all ensconced cultural myths that people had to get up on a soapbox and start talking about. Not a popular thing to go against the grain. Not a popular thing to go against the culture, but that's what Wallach and I are doing. That's what Dr. Joel Wallach and myself are doing, because, ladies and gentlemen, the reason that our economy is in shambles is because the people that we go to for our health, for our medical care, are incompetent at what they do. Not because, they're sadistic, and not because they're stupid, and not because they'll allow anybody into medical school. It's because the philosophy of medicine that they are trained in does not work for chronic disease. MDs legislated themselves into the driver's seat of medicine at the turn of the century. MDs legislated themselves into the driver's seat of medicine in the early 1900s. That's why they are number one. And they got together with the drug companies and the insurance companies and the hospitals, and now it is one big cluster, you-know-what. And there they are, all in bed together, and, patting each other on the back, saying, oh, aren't you doing just a fantastic job, convincing all of us that they're the only go-to people when it comes to medicine. Why? Because they've kicked everybody else off the bus. They have made it illegal to practice medicine unless you have an MD after your name. They have monopolized the industry, and it is gigantic money. By the way, all things being equal, from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. If the cost of medicine is the most burdensome aspect of our economy, then it goes to reason that the hospitals and the insurance companies and the MDs are the richest people in the world, because they're the people that are benefiting from it, aren't they? They are. You're not seeing an MD suffer in this economy. You're certainly not seeing an insurance company or a drug company suffer in this economy. And when you hear, but they never spin it that way. They never say, oh, those medical doctors, they had the best economic year ever. They always say, oh, health care is such a burden to the economy. Well, guess why? Because we're giving these knuckleheads billions of dollars for horrible outcomes, for juvenile treatments, outdated, old-fashioned, dangerous, expensive treatments. And the only reason that we keep doing this is because we have been brainwashed by the drug companies and the insurance companies and the MDs to think that when it comes to our health, the only go-to people have MD after their name. Well, they have convinced us that your medical doctor knows what's best for you, when in point of fact, your medical doctor only knows what they have been trained in. And what they have been trained in is one small piece of the pie of medical science, but they monopolize the industry. They've monopolized the industry for over 100 years, and it's gigantic money. And so because they monopolize the show, because they have made it illegal for anybody else to practice medicine, because the only medicine that your insurance pays for is MD-directed medicine, the only medicine that they teach in the medical schools in your state is MD-directed medicine, and the only medicine that they teach you anything about in school and make TV shows about is MD-directed medicine. It's the only thing that you know. And so you just assume that the MDs got it going on and that MD medicine equals medicine. And, it can't be the MD's fault that healthcare costs are so high and that we're getting sicker and sicker. It must be that sophisticated, complicated genetic disease that we all have. That's got to be it. It can't be the doctor's fault. It's got to be my fault. That's what they've convinced you. And so what President Obama should have said last night, and what every president before him should have said, is we need to legislate a free medical market in this country. We need to start giving money to the naturopaths, to the homeopaths, to the chiropractors. It needs to be an equal money across the board, equal research money across the board, equal licensure across the board, equal insurance reimbursement across the board. And if that was the case, if in fact by some genie in the bottle magic we all woke up tomorrow and there were just as many naturopathic doctors as there were MDs, and everybody got paid the same, and your insurance paid for everything, and there really was a free medical market, within, I don't know, make a number up, 2, 3, 4 years, the MDs would be out of a job. The only MDs that would be, in fact, be employed would be surgeons and emergency room medical doctors, because that's the forte of MD-directed medicine. But when it comes to high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, arthritis, osteoporosis, insomnia, anxiety and panic attacks, menstrual cramps, protracted periods, for the stuff that everybody goes to the doctor for all of the time, everybody would go to naturopaths, because naturopaths fix the problem. Chiropractors fix the problem. Herbalists and homeopaths fix the problem. The MDs gum it up. The MDs make us sicker and broker. For goodness sake, ladies and gentlemen, it's high time everybody drew that line in the sand and said, this far and no further. I'm going to fire my MD. I'm going to fire my MD now. For goodness sake, we put up with slavery for I don't know how many hundreds of years, right? It took hundreds of years for slavery to be illegal. And, when you're in the middle of slavery back in the antebellum South, hey, that's just the way that it is, and don't ruffle, don't rock the boat, don't go against the grain. Just do what everybody else does, and don't question the way that it is, because that's the way that it is. Why is that the way that it is? Just because that's the way that it is, and that's the way that it should be. And this is the mindset that we have here in the United States. For goodness sake, if everybody in this country who's suffering from a chronic health condition became a longevity distributor, or not even a distributor, just a customer, if everybody just became a customer, got on board with our health recovery protocols, our boilerplate health recovery protocols, and stopped eating the 10 bad foods, just got a little bit of education, just a little bit of education, less education, by the way, than it needs to pass the driver's license test, just a little bit of education, and a whole bunch of good nutritional supplements, within 2-3 years, that everything would change. And nobody would be sick anymore. Very few people would be sick. There wouldn't be chronic disease. There wouldn't be high blood pressure. There wouldn't be people on dialysis. There wouldn't be depression. There wouldn't be people committing suicide. There wouldn't be asthma. No, nobody would be overweight. This is what we've got going on, ladies and gentlemen. Your body knows how to fix itself. Your body wants to fix itself. You stick around with us, you're going to see testimonials that are going to make you cry, and then they will make you as angry as a hatter, as mad as a hatter, but not mad in an insane way, angry mad. Like Christ when he went to the temple and, got PO'd at the moneylenders. It's like that. It's indignation, righteous indignation. Because your family members are suffering for no reason. There's no reason for this nonsense. Dr. Wallach dialed in science-based, clinically verified health recovery solutions for the majority of chronic diseases over 17 years ago. It's available. It's here right now. More is the pity, though, that your MD doesn't know about this, or that your MD doesn't even want to know about this. That's the biggest problem that we're up against. So this is why we say fire your MD. Just stop going to them, ignore their treatments, stop it. Educate yourself about what you can do with our boilerplate, science-based, clinically verified health recovery protocols. If we've got whatever ails you, we've got it. Check it out. fireyourmdnow.com. Click on the longevity button. Join us. Get your health back, and if you want to, get your wealth back too. How's that for doubling down? You can do that in Vegas, so why don't you do it for your own life? I hope that you do. I want you to. You need to. Check it out, fireyourmdnow.com. Going right to the phones now. Their phones are starting to light up. Rudy is calling with a question about Lyme's disease. Hey, Rudy. Thanks for calling. You are live.
Hi, Dr. Glidden. Thank you for taking my call. I'm a dental technician by trade. I was talking to one of my accounts, a dentist who has a patient who needs extensive dental work. Her appliances, her dentures, and various other things that go in her mouth she is allergic to. And I asked her, why, and she says, well, she has a history of Lyme disease. I had heard from another distributor that you had extensive experience treating this. So aside from the Healthy Start Pack, what would you recommend?
Well, boy, that's a really interesting question, Rudy. And I do have a lot of experience with Lyme disease. I grew up on Nantucket Island. I think Nantucket Island has the second highest incidence of Lyme disease outside of Lyme, Connecticut. There's also a place in Minnesota or Wisconsin that has a very high incidence. And I worked for 12 years in southern Massachusetts in a little community called Cape Cod, Cape Cod, and there's a ton of Lyme disease down there. So yeah, I've had, I don't know how many people I've treated, but it's been a lot. And because we have a naturopathic perspective on health and healing, the game set, the skill set that I bring to the game here in the management of Lyme disease is quite different than what the MDs have. So, well, first of all, the only thing that anybody can be allergic to is a protein. You can't be allergic to metal. You can't be allergic to, an essential fatty acid or a vitamin. You can only have an allergic reaction to a protein. So unless there's a protein in the dental appliance, I doubt very much that she's having an allergic reaction to it. Now, there might be an inflammatory reaction to it, but that's different than an allergic reaction. And, if you're just a knucklehead medical doctor, you're going to believe what the patient says, and this is why all these direct-to-consumer ads work, right? Because the patient goes home and watches TV, and, they think that they need Lunesta, and they tell their doctor, hey, doc, I need Lunesta, without even thinking, the doc writes a prescription for Lunesta, and this is the way that it goes. So you can only be allergic to a protein. Hey, everybody. Dr. Peter Glidden here, your steadfast advocate for health, your friendly neighborhood naturopathic physician, bringing 24 years of clinical experience with the practice of licensed naturopathic medicine to the game here to help you understand what you can do to get out from underneath the jack-booted heel of conventional medicine. Now, we're talking to Rudy. Rudy, are you still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right. So, it's not an allergic reaction, I can tell you that, because I'm pretty sure there's no proteins in the dental appliance, but there's something going on. It's an inflammatory reaction. I doubt that it has anything to do with Lyme disease. However, people that have Lyme disease or people that have any chronic infectious disease, if it's a parasitic, infection, as in the case of Lyme disease, or if it's an infection with, a bacteria or a virus, if people are laboring underneath the wheel of chronic infectious disease for more than a couple of weeks, the system starts to wear down because it takes energy and nutrients to fight illnesses and to, keep the immune system happy and keep the immune system stimulated. It's kind of like a prize fighter in a prize fight, or a hockey guy in the third period. They're just pretty tired because all they've been doing is just going and going and going and going and no let up, and that's going to wear you down. Now, our whole supposition here, Rudy, from the beginning, right, and let's just think about this rationally, is that everybody's under-nutrified to begin with, because nobody is supplementing appropriately unless, of course, you're a longevity person. Everybody's eating all the wrong foods. The foods that we eat are pro-inflammatory, and the foods that we eat impede the absorption of nutrients. So it's like kicking somebody when they're down, right? So the older that we get, even if we're not dealing with an infectious disease, the older that we get, the weaker that we get. And then if on top of that you throw an infectious disease, oh, wow, forget it, man. And then, because everything's connected, And everybody has different weaknesses, based on the stresses of their life and what they've done with their lives, So somebody's heart's going to start to suffer. Somebody's mouth is going to start to suffer. Somebody's joints are going to start to suffer. Somebody's skin is going to start to suffer downstream from the Lyme disease. And so you could make the argument, well, that it was the stress of the Lyme disease that really kind of opened up all the stops and, all the nutrients in the body drained out, and now the person's really just in a world of hurt, and it was the Lyme disease that did that. Well, maybe, but if the person had been nutrified and eating the right foods, then their body would have been able, presumptively anyway, to handle the stress of the Lyme disease and recover their health. So I would treat this as a chronic running on fumes nutrient deficiency syndrome. And how I would address it is one healthy start pack per 100 pounds of body weight per month, one bottle of either the Cherry Mints or the plant-derived minerals per 100 pounds of body weight per month. I want to give extra minerals in this situation. The Killer Biotic. If there's definitive or presumptive chance of Lyme disease, then the Killer Biotic is indicated. And in the face of an infectious disease, the Killer Biotic is best taken at one bottle per 100 pounds of body weight per month. Now, the Killer Biotic has a number of herbs in it, some of which kill things and some of which stimulate the immune system to kill things. It's not a bad idea either way. So the Killer Biotic is indicated here because of the presumptive presence of the Lyme disease. Everybody on my watch gets selenium because selenium just does so many wonderful things, and the recommendation there, of course, is one bottle of selenium per 50 pounds of body weight per month, not to exceed more than 4 bottles of selenium a month. And the last thing that I would like to dial in here would be the de-stress. D like David, stress, de-stress. People that are beneath the wheel of a chronic illness, whether it's an infectious illness or not, people who are struggling, their B vitamins B like baby. B vitamins get burned through initially, first, second, and third, and people in these boats are always B vitamin deficient, so the recommendation there would be one bottle of de-stress. 1 or 2. You could even do 2 bottles of de-stress a month. And if there's money left over in the kitty, then you want to do as much Z-Radical as the budget will allow. I'd go up to 8 bottles a month. And, of course, complete elimination of all of the 10 bad foods. Now, I have to tell you, Rudy, that Lyme disease is not the easiest thing in the world to diagnose anymore, because about 4 years after Lyme disease showed up on the world stage, which was in the mid-'70s, Lyme disease never existed before, and all of a sudden it shows up. And it shows up 9 miles as the crow flies from Plum Island, which is an island in Long Island Sound off the coast of Connecticut, where there was an infectious disease government-run center, and they were experimenting with tick-borne diseases. So it's pretty much a given that Lyme disease was a government-created disease gone south, and the little bug escaped from the factory, so to speak. And now it's going amok in the world stage, and this is what the presumptive cause of Lyme disease was. And, maybe 30 years from now when they release the information, it'll come out in the same way that maybe someday we'll really figure out who killed Kennedy. But the thing about it is that about 4 years after Lyme disease showed up on the world stage, the federal government removed the only valid test that you could test for is a thing called a Western blot test. And when you do a Western blot test, there are all of these bands. They're called bands that they look at. There's a number of different bands which you look at to see whether Lyme disease is present or not. And the bands that were sensitive and specific and definitive in the diagnosis of Lyme disease, these specific bands on the Western blot, were outlawed. 4 years after Lyme showed up, the government said, well, you can do the Western blot test, you just can't test for these bands. And why the heck would they do that? Because they're trying to cover their tracks. And I'm not making this stuff up. I mean, it sounds like I am. Oh, Dr. Glidden, they couldn't possibly do that. Well, yeah, they did. They did do that. So the testing that's available now for Lyme disease is not that great. And because the immune system is the way that it is, you can test positive for Lyme disease and don't have any, and you can test negative for Lyme disease and have it running rampant in your system. It's a very, very difficult thing to dial in with any type of objective testing. They're just not sensitive and specific enough. So my experience with Lyme disease is that there's a ton of people who have been told that they have Lyme disease and they don't. They've got other stuff going on. You know, they're chronically nutrient deficient. They've got food allergies that they're unaware of. Their body's running on nutrient fumes. They're eating all the wrong food all the time. And some knucklehead medical doctor says, oh, it's Lyme disease because you live in New England. And we can't find anything else, so that's what it has to be. And that's usually how it goes. And then they get bombarded with antibiotics and antibiotics. Now, if this person has been bombarded with antibiotics, then also into the bargain here add the root beer belly, which is a really great product. It's a brand new product. It's enterically coated. Probiotics is about 5 billion in one serving. And it tastes, by the way, exactly, and I mean exactly like those root beer popsicles we used to get when we were kids. It's a great product. It puts back into the intestinal tract the good bacteria that the antibiotics kill. So if she's been on antibiotics, especially if she's been on intravenous Rocephin, which often Lyme patients are, then add the root beer belly into the program. And I would do that before the Z-radical if that's the case. But in any event, you know, that's kind of the long and the short of it, Rudy. Does any of that make sense? Okay, I think the studio guys told Rudy, or hung up on Rudy. In any event, that's the deal, Rudy. Sorry to go on and on like that, but check that out. Dial that program in for this person, and give me a call back in about 8 weeks and tell me how it went. Up next is Jeffrey calling with a question about arthritis. Hey, Jeffrey, thanks for the call. You are live.
How's it going, Dr. Glidden?
Pretty good, Jeffrey. Where are you calling from, man?
I'm calling from the Twin Cities.
Oh, very nice. I was just up there a little while ago.
Nice. Yeah, I was hoping to meet you, but I've only met Dr. Wallach so far.
Yeah, you know, Minnesota licenses and regulates naturopathic medicine. How about that?
Yeah, speaking of that, I got a question. So I work at UPS, and I got really good health benefits.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. Do they happen to cover naturopathic doctors?
Well, different states have different rules and regulations about that. For instance, in Seattle, I can prescribe drugs, I can work in hospitals, I can call myself a physician, and it's all covered by insurance. And Blue Cross and Blue Shield love naturopathic doctors in Washington State because we're inexpensive compared to the MDs, and we fix stuff and the MDs don't. So insurance companies love us when insurance companies know about us. I'm not sure what the deal is in Minnesota, but you can call up your insurer, call up the company that holds your policy and say, hey, what's the deal? Naturopathic doctors are licensed here in the state of Minnesota. Are you going to cover them? And, what's the cap? And sometimes, like with chiropractic, insurance companies will say, well, we're going to give you, $500 a year for chiropractic treatment or whatever. It's probably something like that. And also, this kind of speaks to the insidious financial nature of insurance companies. And, most insurance companies on their board of directors are MDs. And there's very, 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 very few MDs who even know what naturopathic medicine is, and then who, in fact, are, supportive of naturopathic medicine. So most insurance companies don't want to do naturopathic medicine because the MDs have convinced them it's just quackery and it's nonsense, when in point of fact, if they were to cover naturopathic physicians and naturopathic medical treatments, then their bottom line I mean, they'd make more money as an insurance company. I mean, they would. And this is really, ironically, this is one of the things that's changing the way that naturopathic medicine is practiced here in the United States, because in the states that do cover naturopathic medicine with insurance, the insurance companies love it, and because they're making more money because the naturopathic therapies work and they're cheaper. And then that word starts to spread throughout the culture. There's still a lot of resistance against it because it's all, pharmaceutical money all the time. But so I don't really know, man. Check it out, though. Your insurance company will know for sure. And, hey, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll be able to go to a naturopathic doctor for primary medical care, and that would be a beautiful thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out. But I was really calling about my girlfriend's mom, who's 58. She's 5'7". She wouldn't give her weight, but probably close to 300 pounds.
Ouch.
But she has arthritis. She can barely move, has intense pain in her back and feet.
Okay. All right, so
everywhere, retaining water, and apparently diabetic, but not on insulin.
All right, welcome back. We're talking to Jeffrey about a person in his life, 300 pounds, 5'7", arthritis, type 2 diabetes, and is retaining water. So here's the drill, buddy. Anybody that's 300 pounds overweight, I don't care if you're 2 pounds overweight, or 3 pounds overweight, or 300 pounds overweight, you have nutrient deficiencies. That's why you're overweight. When your body is running on nutrient fumes, it knows it's running on nutrient fumes, and it forces you to eat in the desperate attempt to gain the nutrients that your body needs, but the food doesn't have the nutrients your body needs, so you eat and eat and eat, and you gain and gain and gain, and you're still hungry, and then your medical doctor tells you, well, holy smokes, your stomach's too big, we got to cut your stomach out, or, you have the fat gene. And it's nonsense. So this is interesting because weight gain, arthritis, retaining water, and type 2 diabetes are all nutrient deficiency diseases. So, she's screwed. She's had nutrient deficiencies for a long time, and the biggest problem in her life is that she's gone to the wrong medical professional, because all her doctor can do for any of these things is throw drugs and surgery at it, and that ain't never going to fix anything. Now, retaining water, most of the time, that's caused by not enough protein in the blood. Not enough protein in the blood. So she's either not eating enough protein or she's not absorbing the protein that she is eating. So eliminate the 10 bad foods from her diet and make sure that at least 50% of everything that she eats is protein. So fish and chicken and meat, rice and beans, eggs, nuts, especially mixed salted nuts, are loaded with protein. The easiest way to get protein is the simple chicken egg, and that's what we advise. Eggs and butter and salt is a really great way to throw protein into your body. Now, to get around the absorption issue, of course, we eliminate the 10 bad foods and give digestive enzymes. I'll come back to that in a second. If she starts eating more protein and starts salting her food and takes the digestive enzymes, the water retention should go away within 21 days. Type 2 diabetes is a multiple mineral deficiency disease, so to support and promote the health of the body in the face of that diagnosis, we just give it the stuff that it needs to have healthy blood sugar, and that's the Healthy Blood Sugar Pack. And when you have an arthritic problem, the only reason you have an arthritic problem, again, is because you have the wrong doctor. You don't have a bad gene. You don't have a voodoo curse. Your body's joints are starting to go south because your body has run out of the nutrients it needs to keep its joints healthy, man. It's really, when you finally put all this together, and it's not that hard to put all this together, you have an aha moment. And you start looking around at people like they're knuckleheads, because they are. This stuff is not hard at all. So what do? Well, she's 300 pounds, and this is the stumbling block, because medical nutrition works best if it's prescribed and dosed based on your body weight. So, in a perfect world, this woman would do 3 healthy blood sugar packs a month, 4 bottles of glucogel at the 240 count a month, 4 bottles of ultimate selenium a month, and 3 bottles of Ultimate Digestive Enzymes a month. So that's 3 bottles of Ultimate Enzymes, 4 bottles of selenium, 4 bottles of glucogel at the 240 count, and 4 healthy blood sugar packs a month, plus eliminating the 10 bad foods from her diet and salting her food and increasing her consumption of protein that's in the food. So, you know, what she can afford, I don't know. If she can only afford 1 healthy blood sugar pack and 1 bottle of selenium and 1 bottle of digestive enzymes and 1 bottle of glucogel, then do it that way. And you know, whatever you do, after she's been doing it for about 4 weeks and she's comfortable taking the supplements and she's comfortable eliminating the 10 bad foods, she's going to lose weight just by eliminating the 10 bad foods. And then, on top of that, once she's comfortable with the program, have her look to see what a 1,200 calorie a day diet looks like, and have her start eating 1,200 calories a day on week 5 or 6 or 7 of the program. When her body's nutrified with this stuff, it's going to be way easier for her to eat 1,200 calories than if she tries it right from the gate. And when she dials in 1,200 calories a day, she will start to lose weight, and all this other stuff will start to get better. It's not that hard, man. From the proper perspective, everything makes sense. So go out there, man. Thanks for calling, Jeffrey. Make a difference, and thank you for making a difference in the lives of those that are in your family and in your community. Ladies and gentlemen, hour 2 of Fire Your MD coming up right now. Don't touch that dial.